everybody. Welcome back to the You're Not Finished podcast. My name is Brittany Franklin, and I am the host of this podcast. I took some much needed time to figure out who I'm supposed to be and let go of a lot of beliefs, a lot of negative beliefs about myself and about others and about God that were holding me back from doing You're Not Finished in the way that I was supposed to. I've mentioned this on past episodes, but what is really important to me is having the character to be able to consistently do You're Not Finished from the foundation that I'm supposed to do it in. And that sometimes means taking some space to heal. I definitely don't want to do anything or interact with anyone in a space where I'm choosing things that allow me to remain unhealed. And so I'm excited to come back to this with a renewed mindset, a closer relationship to God, and with a renewed passion and excitement. So I'm excited to basically start You're Not Finished yet again. I think starting over sometimes is necessary, and it really doesn't matter how many times you start over as long as you finish well. It really doesn't matter how other people feel about it either, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so I feel good about it, especially after what has transpired over the last few months, which to briefly go over that, this past February, I quit my job without having any backup plan, without knowing what was next, but with a hope that I was beginning to let go of everything that was holding me back. And that included my last place of employment. While I was working there, I was just not in a good space mentally, emotionally, and physically. I was losing sleep. I was becoming someone who I was never meant to be. And I was aligning myself with beliefs and systems that I do not agree with. And a lot of times when you settle for something that has nothing to do with who you are, regardless of any perceived or actual perks of it, when you settle into something, I think that's when you begin to give up on yourself, give up on your purpose, give up on impacting and supporting the people around you. And I didn't want to do that anymore. Also, any continued agreement that I had with my last place of employment, it was, most importantly, separating me from my connection to God, because I'm operating in disobedience. And so I had to finally just let it go. There was a lot of things about the place of employment that were not helpful or ethical to humankind in general. And that's just not who I am. So yeah, I let it go. And ever since I've let that go, I've experienced a slow but sure healing process, a renewed confidence that I haven't experienced in a long time. And so I feel really happy about that. Is money coming in? No, but that's not something that I will worry about for right now, especially with me, picking up a new part-time job that will start pretty soon, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I just had to let that go and start the healing process on myself, because as I've mentioned in prior episodes, what is most important for me is having the character to keep You're Not Finished going and more consistent, and be able to provide the support, resources, and content that people who are struggling need at the end of the day. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what's coming next. There have been blog posts on the website. I've done a horrible job at promoting them, but There have been new blog posts on the website on you'renotfinished.com. Make sure you check those out. The website has also been updated to where it looks significantly more professional and more organized. There have been some added resources there as well. So make sure if you need support, I'll mention that at the end of the episode again, but if you need support, look at the Get Help section because there are some new resources there. And if you are a resource that provides support for people who are struggling with addiction, suicidal ideation, and mental distress or mental illness, please email me at Brittany@you'renotfinished.com. I would love to be able to vet the resource, obviously, but then to be able to add it to the website where people can visit. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and usually when you think about mental health awareness, you're thinking about educating and supporting people who either struggle with mental distress or distressful situations or have been diagnosed with a mood disorder or mental illness. You also think about the family members that support those who have been diagnosed. You think about those caregivers and just giving people the tools and the capacity and the education to be supportive to those in need. But one thing that I feel like is overlooked is the provision of resources on how to, when possible, restore relationships with others when mental health or certain behaviors have improved. Now, this is exclusively and especially for people who may or may not have a diagnosed mental health or mood disorder, or people who struggle with addiction but have the cognitive ability to be able to make decisions that improve their mental health. I'll use myself as an example. I struggled with alcoholism. I've been sober now for over 10 years. Severe anxiety and depression. I'm diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder in 2011. And I made some really bad choices. We all make bad choices, but I made some really bad choices, spoke some things that were harsh, and put myself and at times others in unsafe situations with my actions and with my words. I needed to be put in a position where I became aware of the impact of these things. But until I became aware of that, I centered myself, my safety, my healing, and I didn't consider how my words and my actions and my thoughts, how those things made other people feel. I was just concerned, well, I gotta heal because I'm just gonna focus on me, like self-care at its finest, right? Self-care in and of itself is not selfish, but it becomes selfish when you do not consider other people around you. So what people had to do, the people who loved me and cared about me had to do, what they felt brave enough to do, was make me aware of how my thoughts and actions were making them feel. Once I became aware of that, I stopped centering myself and I put in the work to improve, put in additional work. And that work means for me, having a relationship with God, going to therapy, getting the education, and using all of those tools to improve how I viewed myself, my perception of myself, my perception of others, and how I interact with myself and others, and with God. It was especially important for me to do this for the people who saw me at my worst and decided to stick around. It was especially important for them. Now, that doesn't mean the people who decided to distance themselves from me are wrong for doing so. People aren't obligated. I've said this before, but people aren't obligated to remain in a relationship with you, especially if you're not seeking help for demonstrative issues. And not just if you're not seeking help, because sometimes you don't have the education to understand what kind of help you should be seeking or where you should go. But if you're making a deliberate choice, again, as someone who is cognitively able to make this decision, despite having the support and the resources for it, if you're making a cognitive decision to not seek help, that is a problem, because that means you're choosing to remain unsafe for yourself and others. That choice comes after the awareness, right? So once someone is aware of how difficult moments, to put it lightly, during a season of a period of addiction, distress, or untreated illness, once someone becomes aware of how those moments have negatively impacted the relationships they have or the people around them, the person who has struggled needs to demonstrate that they are safe for themselves and others, especially if those moments were traumatic in nature. What I am not saying is to apologize or atone for the roots of addiction, mental illness, mood disorders, or distressful moments. Everybody's going to have hard times, and so sometimes the root of those hard times can't be apologized for. You can't be apologized for being human. You can't atone for being human. You can't atone for being imperfect. However, you do need to heal so that you're safe for yourself and others. And you need to demonstrate that you are healing, that you are walking it out, that you're making an effort to be safe for yourself and others. And not just provide lip service to say, yeah, I'm working on this, that, and the third. No, it has to be demonstrative. People have to see your growth, even if it's slow growth. Does safe mean perfect? No, nobody's perfect. Nobody can be perfect. But it just means safe. Because while certain mental illnesses, mood disorders, moments of distress, addictions, while those things can explain actions, it doesn't absolve people from accountability. And I say this as someone who, again, is a former alcoholic and has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, who has made bad choices while under the influence of alcohol, while in the mindset of untreated illness. So what does being safe look like? That means I need to be someone who can be trusted. I need to react well when people tell me the truth. I need to be able to be held accountable for my actions. It needs to be seen that my recovery is an ongoing process. People need to understand that I'm no longer using substances or vices to cope. People need to know and trust that I will be honest on difficult days. Not just on difficult days. They need to know that I'm going to be honest all the time, even if the truth is ugly. Because when I'm safe, it gives permission for others to be the same. When other people are safe, it gives me permission to be the same. It's give and take. Mental health awareness doesn't seem to address the awareness that someone needs to be able to improve their thoughts, words, and behaviors for the sake of themselves and other people. And again, this is especially and exclusively for people who have the cognitive ability to be aware of how their actions and words cause harm to other people. This is why awareness goes both ways. And I don't understand the kind of overlooking of that, or maybe I can provide a possible explanation for that in a second. But the reason why this should be emphasized is because community is important. You can't grow, you can't heal well without community. You'll make progress, but you'll always hit a wall. Other people who love you, who support you, they need to be able to see when you're struggling and offer support. They need to be able to see maybe triggers or differences in behavior, and they need to be able to call it out. They need to be able to offer a safe space for you to land. If you're healing by yourself, you're not ever going to be in a position where you can live life to your ultimate fullest. Additionally, if for whatever reason, someone puts themselves or others at risk or contributed to someone else's distress and decided to just move on from it without seeking professional help or counsel, again, that's if they have the cognitive or the practical ability to do so. Myself or anyone else should have no reason to believe that they won't do it again, that they won't put themselves and others at risk again. And more dangerous individuals will just change their surroundings instead of changing themselves. This is because private and public demonstrations of risk demand private and public demonstrations of safety once someone chooses to course correct. Again, it's about safety. It's not about perfection. Because safety means you're allowed to screw up sometimes. You're allowed to make mistakes. But you're not allowed to intentionally refuse to seek help and to seek accountability and expect people to stick around. Refusal to course correct is a choice. And that's one that should be respected with distance and a preservation of peace for the other party involved. That's why I don't blame people for not sticking around when I would refuse help sometimes. Choose peace. You don't have to, if you see someone who's intentionally choosing not to heal after being provided with every option possible, what can you do at that point? You can't force someone to be better. People ultimately choose who they want to be. Again, people who have the cognitive ability. And so I think it's super important that mental health organizations start to talk about the importance of being safe for self and others. There's too much of an emphasis on other people understanding you without there being a mutual understanding. Those are my main thoughts really about mental health awareness, that it absolutely 100% goes both ways. So saying that, I actually want to, again, bring it back to myself because I'm not trying to be any type of hypocrite over here, but bring it back to myself and I've done this before in old episodes, but I want to do it every time it comes up, to apologize for moments that I've acted out of pocket while choosing not to heal. Do I apologize for the root of the things that have caused trauma and have contributed negatively to my well-being? I can't apologize for roots of bad things, right? I can't apologize for being imperfect. But what I can do is demonstrate that I have an understanding of how my words and my actions made other people feel. And I can demonstrate, if I'm allowed to, I can demonstrate I'm actually better. Let me show you that. Does that mean living to prove that you're better to other people? Absolutely not. If someone refuses to see that you are well, if you're actually well and not just projecting the appearance of being well, right? If you're actually well and someone is refusing to forgive you for certain things or refusing to see you for who you are, that's one thing. But if you're choosing, or if someone is choosing to operate in deception and not actually put in the work and other people involved have the discernment to be able to see that, then you can't blame them for respecting your choice. Because again, refusal to course correct is a choice. And that choice should be respected with distance and a preservation of peace. I am not one for division. I don't usually cut people off. I try with every fiber of my soul to try to reconcile with someone, because I'm about making things right, trying to talk things out, not ghosting people. However, there comes a point, and I'm starting to realize this without feeling guilty about it, there comes a point where you do have to choose distance, unfortunately. That's all I have when it comes to that kind of awareness. And I really hope that mental health organizations, mental health advocates start to have conversations that encourage true growth for people and true empowerment. And when applicable, true connection to God. When applicable, meaning for those who believe, right? Let me know your thoughts, feelings, suggestions on how to better deliver this message in YouTube. If you're listening, YouTube comments, reach out to me through the contact form on the upgraded website. Make sure you check it out at www.you'renotfinished.com. If you need any additional resources for mental health, addiction, suicide prevention, head over to the Get Help section at you'renotfinished.com. And if you want to share your experience or tell your story or journey as someone with a diagnosed mental health or mood disorder, or your experience as someone who has overcome a season of distress and you want to share that with others, and you're okay with that being shared on You're Not Finished website, shoot me an email to stories@you'renotfinished.com or contact me through the site. If you want to remain anonymous, just please let me know. If you have a resource, whether it's a book, a website, whatever it is, if you have a resource that will genuinely help people who struggle with their mental health or addiction or suicidal ideation, please send that over to me. Feel free to do so. I will vet that and add it to the website. Thank you all so much for listening. I look forward to coming back at you with another episode next month. Have a great day and finish well. Bye.